Good evening and welcome to Pressing Issues. My name is Jason Dippendahl and I'm your host tonight. Today is Sunday, January 10th, 2021. And long-time viewers of this program will recognize that I'm in a different setting tonight. And so first, apologies are in order for starting an hour late, but I'm obviously not at home. I'm in Florida. You might be able to guess that I am in Eric Morton's house right now. So yes, I'm in Orlando. We got to Orlando yesterday, last night. Very busy day today. We did a miniature golf tournament today as part of the WDWNT golf tour, and that ran a little long, and so that's why we're coming to you late. But to mitigate that, we don't have timekeeping tonight because today's Ron's birthday. Happy birthday, Ron. I know you're not watching because you're out to dinner with your wife, but happy birthday. And so we don't have timekeeping tonight, so hopefully we will have a good discussion, but we won't keep you the full 2 hours. So without further ado, let me introduce our panel for this evening. We have two new faces on the panel tonight, as promised. First, let me introduce Emma Cooley.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Emma is one of our new panelists here on Pressing Issues. Emma, why don't you take a couple seconds and tell all the viewers about yourself?
Sure. So I am a dancer, singer, actor, director, choreographer. Obviously, we're not in person right now, so I've been working from home since everything shut down in March. I've been a huge Disney fan all of my life, have been going to the parks ever since I can remember. In my family, we're DVC members, so we go pretty often every year. We've gone multiple times this year because of all the crazy things that happened with points and things from the shutdown. But anyway, I love this WDWNT community, and I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, welcome to Pressing Issues, Emma.
Thank you.
Our second new panelist for tonight is Brian Layton. Brian, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, and please show off that fantastic shirt.
Yeah, like many of you, I am usually typically just here for the Diffendahl rant. But I'm also here for the Jasmine rant at times too. Ashley's really been up in her game. I am a huge fan, obviously, of Pressing Issues and WDWNT. I actually started getting my exposure to WDWNT through Pressing Issues. I'm a little bit disappointed, though, I'm going to be honest with you, Jason, that I do not get to ask my question. I need you to ask you a question of Ron for me. Hey, happy birthday, Ron. I need to know if his hair is a helmet mousse to perfection or if he just wakes up in the morning and it just glistens like that naturally. It's been a pressing issue for me, I'm not going to lie. The timekeeping has been awesome. As somebody who has recently joined the Disney World, over the last 10 years, my wife is a Disney lifer and kind of converted me. So the timekeeping series has been really awesome. I got to put a plug in for the marathon. If you have not watched that, that 2 hours is awesome of the timekeeping. But I'm happy to be here. I'm a father of two young children, annual pass holder located in the Northeast. So it's definitely, I'm a college baseball coach. So like Emma, we had COVID really kind of shortened our season and has changed the dynamic of higher education. So still doing it, but like everybody else, COVID has changed to things. So happy to be here for sure.
Great. Well, welcome aboard. And to round out our panel for this evening, we have Ashley Jasmer back with us. Welcome, Ashley.
Hey, everybody.
All right. So let's get started. The discussion tonight, I want to talk about, obviously, Festival of the Arts, which started yesterday. I don't even know what day. 2 days ago. I don't even know. It's so hard to keep track of days.
I think it started
Festival
Friday.
of the Arts started
Yeah.
Friday. It did. Yes, I know. Because we had 1,000 food reviews come out. So Festival of the Arts started Friday. I will be going actually Tuesday. Axel and I are live streaming from Epcot on Tuesday, so I will be going and partaking of some of the festival foods myself. And Axel, it will be Axel's first time at the festival on Tuesday also, so he and I will let you know what we think. In case you don't agree with Tom Coyle's food reviews, we're going to give you another take on things. So tune into our live stream on Tuesday for that. I don't know what time yet it's going to be. Actually, I have to work that out. But I was involved with all of the restaurant reviews, all the food reviews, the booth reviews that went out on Friday, and so I've been keeping track of everything, making a list of the kinds of dishes that I want to try, but also the merchandise. And the merchandise is where I want to start my discussion tonight, because I think the merchandise for this festival is fantastic. This is probably the best festival merchandise I've seen in a couple years. Festival of the Arts merchandise is usually one of my favorites because it's artsy and it looks really nice. But between the magic bands, which are amazing, the pins, which are amazing, I'm super impressed with this festival merchandise. And even before I hit the food booths, I might have to hit Mouse Gear and pick up some of that merchandise. So let me, obviously none of you guys have been to the food, so we'll probably next week come on again and talk a bit more about food after I've had a chance to have some. But let's talk about the merch. What is your guys' take on the merch that we've seen for the festival thus far?
I mean, at least for me, I know I never got to experience the original Journey into Imagination, but I'm just excited about all of this love for Figment, which is probably why I love Festival of the Arts merch so much. I saw the Spirit jersey, and I told myself that I was like, when I'm go next week, and when I'm there, I'm not going to get myself another Spirit jersey. But I loved it so much. It's just so fun and colorful. I'm gonna have to get it. I'm not gonna be able to resist myself. I'm kind of like Tom. Like I see something I like and I buy it. I don't even hesitate. But yeah, that and the pins, especially because it's the 5th anniversary. I'm really excited about it.
Yep,
Yeah.
so we've got all this, not only festival merchandise, but it's the 5th anniversary. So it's all got the little 5 logo on it to denote the 5th anniversary, which is really cool too. And it's actually, I think, I'm trying to count. I know I was at the very first Festival of the Arts, and I know I was last year, and I think I was 1 year in between there too. So I think I've been to 4 of the 5 Festival of the Arts, which is pretty amazing. Coming from Pennsylvania. But the other thing I want to talk about, let me get Ashley and Brian's take, and then I'm going to go on a mini rant since you mentioned Figment, Emma.
Yeah,
So
I
go
love
ahead.
it.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say it is hands down my favorite festival. I unfortunately haven't been to near as many as Jason has, but I'm always so impressed with the merchandise and just what they do and what they put on for the festival. I think because it's newer, it hasn't gotten stale yet. And especially for being the arts festival, I feel like they always up their game with merchandise, as they should, because it's the arts festival. The one thing that I also really love about this merchandise that I hate about food and wine, and really even flower and garden, is there's not like 16 different lines of merchandise. That they hone in and they concentrate on making one really great set of merchandise instead of just a bunch of crap that they throw at the wall. And they're like, meh, people will buy it because it's a festival. But no, I'm blown away by everything. I don't know that I have a particular favorite because it was all phenomenal this year, especially for the anniversary. I'm with Emma, though. I'm a Spirit Jersey junkie, so that would probably, if I had to pick a favorite, be the favorite thing. No, but it was all great this year. They did a wonderful job, as always.
Yeah, I would say, as somebody who hasn't had an opportunity to go yet, there's some of that stuff that has like a functional use that actually you can just hang on a wall. That's how you know it's pretty good stuff. The other thing is too, they've now brought back for Epcot, if you spend $150 in merch, now you can, send it to the front of the park, which I think if you're buying a gigantic painting and now you're trying to eat around the world, like it's nice to be able, if you spend enough money, to just send it to the front of the park and not have to worry about, spilling whatever on it or, having to lug this giant painting around or picture. I think that's pretty cool. I wonder if that actually ends up leading to them going that route for other parks. I know they haven't announced it yet, but I thought that was pretty smart on their part, where it's like, okay, now I got to buy this gigantic thing. It's not like a Spirit Jersey where I can just throw it on or throw it in a bag. Now I have this awesome painting that I have to buy. Now what am I going to do? Am I just going to leave, or am I going to be able to actually send it to the front of the park, which I thought is pretty cool. I don't know that they've really necessarily announced it all that well. I'm sure that if somebody's about to buy something, they maybe tell them. But it's really interesting stuff. I was at the 5 kind of made me go back and look and go, oh, this is the 5th year. I knew they'd done it for a few years, but knowing it was a 5th kind of made me do a little more research and kind of go, okay, this is pretty cool. But as somebody who's not really an artsy person, some of that stuff is just really cool. You can hang it on a wall, you can put it on a desk, you can, there's a lot of that merchandise is actually the kind of thing you'd actually want to wear as opposed to wearing it just for the festival and never wearing it again. There seems some kind of rewearability to that kind of stuff, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think, they try to make food and wine merchandise somewhat useful, but, they make like cutting boards that are wooden cutting boards, and they're really pretty, but you're not going to use them. So that's part of it.
No, why are you?
Yeah. I just want to give a shout out to Piccolo O'Neill in the chat, who gave us a super chat for $5. Thank you. Piccolo asked, are the return of concerts in Epcot in sight? I think, obviously we've had the Voices of Liberty now back. We've had Mariachi Cobra play at the American Garden Theater. So I think slowly but surely this we're getting concerts back at the American Gardens Theater. It's super exciting. I can't wait to get there and see some of the Voices of Liberty. But I don't know what their schedule is. I don't know if they play all week or not. It might only be the weekends, and that's kind of a bummer. But
I think it's Fridays and Saturdays only. I think
you're right.
On the web, so yeah.
I think you're right. That's my concern. So I'll miss it. But Voice of the Liberty, great. That's absolutely one of the greatest things. So the other thing, Emma. So last year there was a Figment Spirit Jersey too. Did you see the one last year? It's very similar to this year. I didn't like
the one last year.
I didn't see the one.
It was like the weird block color. I didn't care for that one. The tie dye is cuter.
I like the tie dye better. The one last year was like orange and purple and white striped, and I bought it. And the first time we washed it, like the colors bled, and it didn't really turn out too well. So I wasn't happy with that. I think the tie dye one is better this year. But more so than even the Spirit Jersey, I want to talk about the Passholder T-shirt with the pocket with Dreamfinder on it. because that's cool.
It's really
And
cute.
I'm super impressed that they brought back Dreamfinder and put him on a shirt with Figment, because for the most part, all these festivals have been Figment focused, because they know that sells merchandise. But putting Dreamfinder on that shirt, I think, was great.
Well, I mean, let's face it sells Epcot merch, but it's great. It's great to see that nod, and I always love when they do things like that. Again, especially for Festival of the Arts, because it's a great nod to the park and to the Imagineers and things like concept art. And like I said, you can just tell that whoever does this merchandise puts a lot of time and effort and love into everything that they design.
Yep, they do. They do. You can absolutely tell. And I'm not a huge fan of that artsy, stylized Figment that they use on all their merchandise.
I'm not really either, but he's so cute on this one, on this set.
Even though I'm not a huge fan of that Figment, most of the merchandise is really nice. I just got this put on my desk. This is the
is that the little
Festival of the Arts. This is the festival guide, and you can see the 5-year. You can see. Let me put myself on the big screen so that it's easier for our viewers to see this, because I'm having a merchandise put on my desk. So here's the festival booklet, the festival passport. You can see it says celebrating 5 years.
See, even that is just so cute, and you can tell that somebody took their time to design it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm going to look.
They didn't just slap a logo on it.
The Figment's not on the booklet, but I'll tell you where the Figment is on. The Figment is on the Magic Band.
Can you open the box? I don't remember exactly what he looks like.
For sure. Right, but this is the pass holder one with Figment and Dreamfinder, and
look at that! The art on that is just so fun. That's so cute.
Yes, see, and I love that they keep a similar. I don't want to say similar style, and it's not just like Figment, but with Spaceship Earth and everything, they kind of keep it almost. They change it every year, but at the same time, it feels very similar every year too.
There's a running
kind
theme
of like art does. Yeah.
There's the Dreamfinder on the other side of this. I mean, this is probably one of the coolest Magic Bands I've seen in a long time. I love this. I think it's fantastic.
I hope it doesn't sell out before I get there, because now I really want one.
And then here's the one this is the non-pass holder Magic Band.
See, now why couldn't they do something like this for the straight-up Mickey Mouse design for like Runaway Railway and the new cartoons? Because that's cute.
Right. So both of these are limited edition of 2000. So this is the non-pass holder. This is the regular one. You can see.
That's cute.
So this focus is more on the other characters. You've got Chip and Dale and Donald and.
It's a hidden Figment.
Mickey, and then Figment on the canvas there. Mickey's painting the Figment. And this has got the 5-year logo on it too, which is spectacular. Let me show you. This is honestly one of my favorite things. You talked about the Spaceship Earth. Look at this. You've got the Spaceship Earth print with the color scheme of the festival. It's beautiful.
So much care. Like, if you compare that to, like, I could grab off my shelf, like the 30th anniversary one for Studios. It's just a basic box and a basic Magic Band. Like, that makes my heart happy that they're putting effort into this.
I mean, honestly, that's, the 30th anniversary is when they changed the Studios logo to that really boring plain logo. So I guess the Magic Band and the merchandise had to go along with it. So this, I mean, obviously you would expect for Festival of the Arts that the merchandise would be a bit more artistic, and it is. But the fact that they can do this for one festival means they have the talent in place to do it for every festival, and sometimes they just don't put in the effort, and that's what disappoints me.
No, I agree. So when I was there for Food and Wine, when I saw the pass holder pin and just the festival anniversary pin, and I was kind of like, meh, and especially because the designs were so similar. It's just like they just didn't care and changed one small detail between the two pins. I was like, wouldn't you want to give a little more thought and care, especially for a pass holder pin? I mean, they've already come out and said that pass holders are second-class citizens, but you know, besides that, you know, I just figured for a festival and for an anniversary, especially the 25th, I thought they would have given some more thought. But I'm glad to see that there is a lot of thought and care into the details.
Yeah. And so everybody says, hi, Jill. Thank you for bringing us the merchandise. Perfect timing. What was I just going to say? I can't remember now. But anyway, so I think this festival merchandise is great. This is a shame that it's the shortest festival. Somebody in the chat wrote it's kind of unfair they're offering AP exclusive items when they're not currently offering APs. Realistically, the people that have APs, the latest that you can have an AP that would still be valid is July, around the middle of July. So if you bought your AP on the very last day the parks were open, it would be valid till the middle of July. The thing that is, I think, maybe a mitigating factor in the fact that they're not selling APs is that people who already have APs can still renew. And so I think the decision that was made, and I don't like this, honestly, it was annoying. I didn't like having to pay for 5-day tickets for my family when we came at Thanksgiving, and for another $200 I could have got annual passes. I didn't like that. They're taking advantage of people. But you can still renew, and I think the decision was made that there are probably too many annual pass holders. And instead of, coming up with a less fair way to reduce that number, or instead of increasing prices to reduce that number, what they decided to do was stop selling new passes and only allow renewals, and hopefully that will bring the numbers down. And so the problem is that it was unfair to the people that planned on buying annual passes and sort of planned their trips with annual passes in mind, and now they couldn't do it because it wasn't something they announced ahead of time. I mean, obviously, a lot of problems and a lot of issues and a lot of things with COVID are not the way that we'd like them to be, and I get that. Like I said, I had a pass because I came in January, but the rest of my family didn't, and I don't think it's fair. I think they should start selling annual passes again, but that's the decision they've made. As I said last time, there are companies out there, Disney company, as well as others, that are doing a lot of things that aren't very customer-focused and customer-centric, and they're blaming it on COVID when really it has nothing to do with COVID, and it's just a money-saving, budget-cutting opportunity. To be honest, I don't know that annual passes fall into that category, right? Like Disney saying we can't run fireworks because of COVID. No, that's false. It's because of money. But the fact that they chose not to sell more annual passes, that I can see, because the parks are limited in capacity, and the annual pass holders that are out there already have a problem getting access to the parks. And when they paid for 365 days of access and they can't get 365 days of access, that's not fair to the pass holders that already paid the money. So honestly, I think the more the decision to stop selling passes I get, and I think that honestly is something that they did because of COVID to make it fair to the people that already bought passes. So as much as I complain, I don't know that there's a better solution to that until the availability of park passes increases, which means park capacity has to increase, and so that's kind of where we are with that. But on a much higher note, there's one more piece of merchandise that appeared on my desk. This is amazing.
Oh, yay!
Oh, yay!
So this is the PeopleMover vehicle. Doors open.
Nice.
This side it says PeopleMover. You can buy 25 of these and attach them to each other and have a giant PeopleMover train. This is $9.99, which is a pretty reasonable price for this, especially because the doors actually do work. This is an amazing piece of merchandise because it's not something that is going to sell a lot, but it's going to mean a lot to people. And it pulls. Well, I can't show people. It pulls back. Jill is trying to make me show here. It pulls back, and then it goes. This is great. This is great because it's a piece of merchandise that a lot of people will like, but it won't sell a lot, but it's very meaningful to people. What's honestly amazing to me is that they released this within a couple of days of the delay of the PeopleMover. And so maybe this is a great segue into our next topic. If anybody wants to talk about festival merch anymore, we certainly can. But I think this is all that Jill put on my desk. I don't have anything else to show you right now. But the next topic we could talk about is the PeopleMover. A couple of things in the chat to address. Do you think the PeopleMover toys will end up on Shop Disney? I doubt it because this is a park item. It says Disney Parks. The price ticket is a Disney Parks. And a lot of this stuff doesn't end up on Shop Disney. It will honestly end up in the outlets before it ends up on Shop Disney for the most part. The stuff that ends up on Shop Disney that are also park items are things that were planned to be released in both places at once. This, I'm pretty sure, was not planned to be released on Shop Disney.
Did I freeze?
Uh-oh.
Did we lose him?
He froze.
No, he froze.
Okay. Well, while we're at it, I actually did want to talk about
He's really contemplating his next thought. That's what he's doing. Really thinking about it.
Yeah. So I did want to go back and talk about the concert series for a second. I am a little sad that is missing. It's great that the Voices of the concert series, like the Broadway concert series, is missing. Yeah. That was something I was really looking forward to, especially since I've seen the lineups of the performers that they had and all the talent they bring in. And I understand why. I know there was that huge, they went through the whole huge agreement with the Actors Equity Association and got that sorted out. And I'm sure there's still drama about it and, pay and all the other things that go into equity contracts that I won't go into on this show. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but the performers for that concert series were actually, they came in from Broadway.
Right.
To do those. They weren't equity performers.
No, but I don't know what kinds of contracts they have, but it seems like they would be on equity contracts. The fact that they were performing on a pretty regular basis.
Because they were just coming in for the festival, my guess is it was probably a guest appearance contract. Okay, I forget what they actually termed those as. There is. But again, there's still.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but there's still drama going on with equity because Festival of the Lion King hasn't come back yet. My friend can't go back to work until equity performers come back, and none of the equity performers have come back, even though they did hash out the contract. Disney was like, yeah, we hashed out your contract. y'all are still furloughed. Or,
Right.
excuse
So
me,
it's
laid off.
Yeah, so it's probably a because money thing, because I'm sure they have to, pay for travel because there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
rule if you, and all the things that go with that, and even if it's a guest appearance contract, I'm sure they still have to do that because there are certain, like with any kind of equity contract, there are certain rules that you have to follow and do X, Y, and Z. But I'm glad that they have the Voices of Liberty. I saw that performance on the channel and it was incredible. I can't wait to hear it in person, but I am sad that they don't have those special concerts because I personally was looking forward to it. But anyway.
Agreed.
That's what
I mean, I think Voices of Liberty was a good compromise.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a shame that they couldn't do. And I meant to ask Jason too, because I haven't seen a whole lot of wide reporting on it, like as far as what the actual entertainment is. Because I know, like, they used to do, like, oh, we're back. Except for Jason.
He's still thinking.
Is he still frozen?
He's still thinking.
Okay.
He's thinking
Okay.
about it.
Well, since it's the three of us, can YouTube hear us?
Yeah.
I don't know. In the chat?
Can we talk about how they don't use, like, we were talking about before, and he's talking about annual pass holders. Like, how is it possible that a company that's looking to maximize revenue doesn't have the foggiest idea of what each annual pass holder spends in the park? Like, how is that a thing? How do you have that in Disneyland but not have a form of that in Disney World? Like, if you're going to call us second-class citizens, like, I'm coming from, like, Jason's Pennsylvania, I'm Connecticut. I'm coming down. Anything we like, we're going to buy. So, like, but you don't know that, even though I'm an annual pass holder, that you don't know how much I spent, because all I'm doing is showing a card that has Sharpie written on it.
Right.
It doesn't have any validation. Like, how is that not tracked? If only there was a period of time where the parks were shut down for an extended period of time, like when no one was in there, where they could, like, maybe come up with that. If only they had that opportunity. But to me, it's like, you want to talk about cutting.
They could. All they have to do, I mean, they could if they wanted to. They absolutely could. But
you're cutting APs, and you don't even know. You might be cutting APs that spend a ton of money. So you have absolutely no idea what percentage you could be cutting the whales out.
JPEG doesn't care because his math and his people tell him that his math and his people tell him that families that come only like once a year or once every 5 years ball out and spend like $10,000 in a week, and that's where all their money is, and that's what they need to care about.
Yeah, but there's still
forget your annual pass holders and your actual fans, and it's stupid.
Right, but like to Jason's point before, like Universal, if you spend a certain amount of money, then you get a coupon or whatever it is. I'm not saying they're going to do that. You don't even have that information to even make that call. Like, it's kind of similar to me. It's kind of like how everything's been handled with COVID because nobody had any kind of a plan. So from the higher education side where I'm from, everybody was waiting for somebody else to make a decision. Nobody wanted to be the first person. And the minute somebody made a call, whether it was an academic schedule or whatever, like 25 colleges would jump on and go, okay, we're going to do that now. And it's not like, obviously you guys had a plan, but nobody wanted to set that precedent and make that first tough decision. But you don't even have the information to even make, you're essentially just guessing. Mm-hmm. You're literally guessing in a time where you need to maximize revenue as much as possible. It makes no sense. Like, Jason's going down. Yeah, he's from Pennsylvania. He's going to buy anybody that comes down for me, anything that we like. Our rule is if you see it, buy it, because you're probably not going to see it again. So you're not going to have it again. So, but they don't even have that information. It may be, so you're telling me that Tom Corliss as an annual pass holder doesn't spend more money than, the top 1% of all annual pass holders, all the stuff he has. Like, you don't know.
I promise you he does. They're probably trying to figure out who bought 10 packs of Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom cards on Saturday. Because those haven't sold in months, and all of a sudden somebody bought out 10.
And he's like gleefully walking around sorting through the cards. Like, I loved it. He's got his binder and everything. It was great. But like, you don't even know that information, which blows my mind. You're supposed to be somebody that is able to spend all this money and do all this stuff. I'm sorry, I'm doing my impression of a Diffendall rant. How do you not know this? How do you not know this?
Because they don't care.
But
They
if
don't
you
care.
care about money and it's going to allow you to make more money, how are you not getting this information? Now you're
Because
releasing.
they've already
Too much sense. That's what I
they've
say.
already convinced themselves that it's one way. They don't care. They don't actually understand
Because
what
illogical.
they have.
Okay.
So,
Sorry,
but
I'm done
hi,
now. I'm
Jason.
done. Sorry, Jason. I
Hi.
was trying to pretend to be you while you were thinking about that point for a long time.
That's yeah. We had some internet glitches here at the. I guess the. Orlando's not known for its reliable internet service, and that is evident tonight. So anyway, thank you guys for handling the rants while I was temporarily gone. There have, in the interim, the good news is there have been a couple of additional items placed on my desk. One of my favorites is this.
Oh, cute.
Oh, deliciable.
It's this is the Mark Twain. This is the Mark Twain riverboat, Rivers of America. I also kind of think it looks like the Empress Lily. Honestly, with its squareness, right? It's a lot more looking like the Empress Lily than the Mark Twain. Also in this series, we have another train.
Oh, cute.
Much nicer than the runaway railway train Wishable that we were subjected to. This is the EP Ripley. There's also a tram and a monorail, which she didn't get. I don't know why she didn't get them. These were on Shop Disney, for those of you wondering. These were on Shop Disney. I don't know if they still are, but they certainly are on Shop Disney. And then the other series that came out is the Alice, so we've got the Mad Hatter.
I love those.
Oh, that's really
And
cute.
we've got the Cheshire Cat. There's also an Alice in a Teacup in this series. Do we know what the variants are in these? So the teacup is the variant in this series. Different colors of the teacup, and the monorail. Monorail's the variant in the transportation series with different color monorails. So yeah, those are on Shop Disney. If you need them, I highly recommend you buy 30 because when the Country Bear Wishables came out last year, a friend of mine bought 30 and did not complete his set.
Oh my God! Wow, that's crazy.
So I know, right? So yeah, if these are the kinds of things, no, Jill actually doesn't care about sets, and she just buys the ones that she likes, and that's why she only has the Mad Hatter and the Cheshire Cat. Oh, there were only 3 total in Mouse Gear.
Wow.
Okay, so they're selling out quickly. That's why she only bought 2. There are plenty of the transportation ones. Then why didn't you buy more? Oh, you didn't buy more because they're really hard to figure out what's in them. Instead of me, where I just buy 10 and use the odds in my favor, Jill actually spends an extended amount of time trying to figure out what's what, even though the signs say, please don't touch the merch. I think they took those signs down, though.
I would imagine they gave up on that.
And the packages for the Wishables say, squeeze me. Right? They're telling you to squeeze me. So she spends an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out what's in the Wishable packages so that she only has to buy a minimal amount. And I just ordered 10 from Shop Disney and hope the odds are in my favor. And sometimes I get lucky. One set, I can't remember which set it was. Oh, I think it was the Disneyland 65th anniversary set. Shop Disney would only let you buy 1 per order. So I ended up having to add 1 to every order I made every day for like a week. But I ended up with all 3 variants from that set. The Skyway buckets were the variants. I ended up with all 3
Ooh,
variants before I
Nice.
even ended up with a set of 4. So,
dang.
yeah. Anyway, so that's the merchandise tangent for the week. Can we get a wishable opening live stream? Somebody wants a wishable opening live stream. We could do that with Axel on Tuesday, because if Mouse Gear still has enough, the transportation ones are the ones I want. I don't want the Alice ones. Maybe we'll
You
do
don't
that.
want the
That would
Alice
be cool.
ones? They're so cute.
I'm not into the non-park stuff. I mean, I know it's the Mad Tea Party, but that's also a ride that makes me ill. So, uh,
Oh, it's my
That's fair.
favorite.
but anyway, so yeah, wishable opening live stream is maybe that can happen on Tuesday. Whatever happened to the Disney being hit with a lawsuit over annual pass breach of contract? I think part of it is obviously they extended the annual passes for the amount of time the park was closed, and then they tacked on another month. And I think we talked about this last week or the week before. They tacked on another month, which I don't think is enough to make up for what the annual pass holders are not able to get under their contract. But whether and suing Disney is not an easy thing to do. People don't often win. Even the ones who are like injured in the parks, people don't often win those lawsuits. So it has to be pretty egregious for you to have a shot at winning against Disney, because they spend all the money instead of hiring cast members and artists, they spend all the money on lawyers, so you can't sue them. But I don't know what happened to that. It may be the case that they have to wait and see what happens. At the end of July, when the extensions will run out. At that point,
Are set to
people,
expire.
right? It's quite possible that at that point, if Disney doesn't do anything else, then they'll be in breach of contract. So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 6 months with that, but we'll see. All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the PeopleMover. I am amazed that. So this is a perfect example of the disparate parts of this company have no idea what's going on in the rest of the company. Because how embarrassing is it? How embarrassing is it that you release the cutest PeopleMover toy ever, and your ride is not open because of maintenance issues? That's pretty embarrassing. And like within days of this coming out, PeopleMover was supposed to be open on Friday. That was the first date that they announced that it would open, and I was all excited because I'm here and I could go ride it. No, it's extended to January 30th. The PeopleMover has been closed since March of last year, and it's still not open. That's a problem to begin with. This technology is not complicated. It's a linear induction motor. It's electromagnetic, so that there are no moving parts in the motor. How is it this hard to fix it? That's problem number one. And I could go on a rant about that, but I'm not going to. What's worse is that the merchandise arm of the company comes out with a toy to sell in the parks for a ride that has been closed for 10 months and has been a mechanical nightmare that they still can't fix and have to push back the opening date. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that the merchandise people have no idea that the PeopleMover's not actually functional.
But I do have a question. Is it that they don't know or they don't care? Because I could wholeheartedly believe that they designed this toy They know how much people love PeopleMover, regardless of whether it's open. And it's been proven. Like, everybody's like, oh, it's sold out. Good luck finding it. Like, people still love PeopleMover. I'm just willing to bet that merchandising didn't care. They're like, we're putting this out. We don't care if y'all can't figure out what's wrong with the ride.
Right. And
Like,
so I think you're right. I think merchandising
so
has
it's still bad
has
show.
a mandate.
Like, it's still embarrassing.
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly not. It's not the merchandise department that should care. They don't care. Their mandate is to sell stuff and to make money. Somebody
where I
higher
think
up than merchandise
should stop them. Where merchandising missed the boat was the Figment Christmas sweater. That's where merchandising missed the boat and should have been on their A
They
game.
did.
But
But you know what? They probably had no idea.
They didn't. But to your point, that's the problem. Somebody higher up over both of those departments should be like, y'all need to start talking to each other better because this is a problem. And I mean, especially for something like this, like, it's poor show to be selling, like, we're not talking about Space Mountain that was down for scheduled refurb that people would still want merchandise for. This is something that randomly closed because they weren't doing maintenance on it and jacked it up so bad that they broke it. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden COVID hit and they couldn't get parts. Like, that's essentially what happened. And that's just ridiculous on so many different levels, especially to your point, because it's such simple technology. We're not talking about Primeval Whirl, where it's like a defunct company and you can't get parts anymore. It's there's so many little things wrong with this, and it scares the bejesus out of me, because if you're going to let the PeopleMover go to hell, and again, it's such basic, to me, granted, not an engineer, not a mechanic, but I would think very basic and easy to maintain versus some of the other attractions. Like, what other maintenance are you not doing? Like, again, like, I pray I'm right. Like, I pray I'm wrong, but I hope to God we don't suffer another Big Thunder incident. Like, that's like, I'm almost like, I'm getting to that point where I get a little nervous, because if you're not performing regular maintenance and the rides randomly going down, animatronics randomly going down the way that they are, like, it makes me wonder, because that's kind of where you first started seeing it go downhill in Disneyland, and then the Big Thunder incident happened, and you found out they weren't doing all this kind of maintenance, or Space Mountain where the car flew off the track. Like, what's going to be the final shoe to drop, and why aren't they performing basic maintenance?
Well, that's the thing. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
No, you go ahead, Emma.
I mean, that's the problem with laying all those people off, is now they simply don't have the people, or I guess because money to pay these people, because they reinstated all these executive salaries where they could have been paying these cast members to do the maintenance and keep the show a good show, whether that's the bird animatronic that fell down in Splash Mountain, or both Donald and Jose that fell down in Grand Fiesta Tour. And I mean, heck, now the PeopleMover, I mean, heck, before the park closed, it was on fire. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like, you would think that, especially with the company that I have always thought that safety is the number one thing, and we can clearly see that they still care about that, at least with, to some extent, with the current situation and the procedures they put in place. But you would think that would also be a part of it, that with rides and, big incidents like that safety would be the number one thing. But apparently maintenance, not so much. I don't know. Anyway.
Here's the problem. All of the 4 or 5 keys, safety, show, courtesy, efficiency, and diversity, those used to be prioritized. Inclusion, diversity, whatever it is. I don't remember because it's new. The problem is that Walt set forth those keys based on what the company needed to do to make its guests have a good experience. And what has changed is those those keys have been reprioritized now to not what makes the guests have the best experience, but what costs us the least amount of money. And so safety is still at the top simply because if there was a safety issue and people got killed on your ride, like happened at Big Thunder in Disneyland, that's a significant problem, and it impacts the company quite severely because you either get sued or it's proven in a court that you're negligent, and it looks really bad. Okay, after safety, you've got show. It's clear the company could care less about show anymore. And then you've got courtesy and efficiency. Well, without enough staff members, efficiency is sure out the window. And the staff members that are there, most of them do great under difficult circumstances. But if they're not the most courteous, I can completely understand why. Because they're worked to the bone, and yeah, under conditions that are not the way the parks were designed. So that's the problem with the keys, is that they were prioritized based on guest satisfaction, and they got reprioritized based on money. Because money. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that, okay, so so the PeopleMover has been broken for 11 months, and people are saying they couldn't get parts. Who built the PeopleMover? Can I ask, does anybody know who built the PeopleMover?
It was WED,
the company,
wasn't it?
The company that built the PeopleMover was called Community Transportation Solutions, CTS. CTS was a subsidiary of WED Engineering. And so it was Disney that built the PeopleMover in 1972 or 3. I can't remember at this point when it opened. Disney built same as the monorail. Disney built the monorail. So if there's a problem with parts, Disney needs to solve the problem with the parts. Because, yeah, obviously they built the monorail and they bought parts from other companies, right? But the only company that knows how the monorail was built and where the parts were bought from is Disney. And if they need to redesign a piece of equipment because they can't get parts anymore because it's 50 years old, then they need to do that. And if they need to hire people or if they need to buy equipment to make the parts, they need to do that. Because they run an amusement park and people expect the rides to operate. Remember last, whenever it was in late summer, when Hagrid's at Universal went down for a week. Hagrid's went down for a week because there was an electrical fire that damaged some circuitry. Obviously, having your flagship attraction, your newest attraction, not operating for a week is a big problem for guest satisfaction. What the problem is that they didn't have any backup parts, right? They built the thing, they thought, we're not going to need any backup parts, so let's just go with what we got. There's no need to have backup parts. You know how Splash Mountain goes down like every other day, right? Splash Mountain goes down every other day. Usually it's a lift problem. It's a problem on the lift hill with the chain and the motors that drive the chain to pull the boats up the lift hill. They know that. They know Splash Mountain's a pretty popular ride. They have like 20 motors in the back of Splash Mountain, and if you've ever gotten evac'd off of Splash Mountain, you walk by all these motors that are there as replacement motors because they know they break down. So in some cases, they have replacement parts, but in other cases, they don't have replacement parts. And if they don't know who makes the replacement parts or whatever, they need to get some more parts made. They can make them. They built them the first time. They can do it again. They built the monorails the first time. Bob Gurr comes in and he designs a monorail, and WED builds it. They did that 50 years ago. They could certainly do it again, and they could certainly do a better job now than they did 50 years ago, but they don't. When you have
it would be
attractions,
expensive because you'd have to get a machinist or a craftsman to build them for you.
Yep.
Probably here in the States, and that's expensive.
But when you're a multi-billion-dollar company that advertises the vacation kingdom of the world and the most magical place on earth, and your rides don't work, that's a problem. How do you think people are going to come to your park and how do you think people are going to come to your park and have a good experience if half of your rides are broken? Somebody in the chat said they need to correct me because Bombardier of Canada made the monorails. Bombardier made the Mark 6 monorails, but Disney made the Mark 4 monorails in 1971. So they outsourced the Mark 6s, but they built the Mark 4s themselves in-house, and obviously they outsourced the Mark 6s because money. Still doesn't excuse... Bombardier is still a company that's still in business. It doesn't excuse them from not having parts. When the monorails had that terrible accident and the cast member died when the monorails crashed, that was pink and purple, I believe. And so after that happened, the monorails were obviously down for a while. Disney took the cars of each one that weren't damaged, and they put them together. They took 3 cars from pink and 3 cars from purple that weren't damaged and put them together, and that became monorail Peach, I want to say.
I think so.
Right?
Could be
and
wrong.
So they were down.
Maybe.
They were down from 12 monorails to 11. Do you know how many monorails there are today? There are 12.
No.
You know where that 12th monorail came from? Disney built it from scratch. They have a 12th monorail that they built. They have a 12th monorail that they built. They can do it. They absolutely can do it. There's no excuse for them not being able to do it. There's no excuse for them not to have replacement parts. There's no excuse for rides to go down because Splash Mountain goes down and they have replacement parts because it goes down and they have them in stock. Rock and Roller Coaster didn't open for 5 days this year. The first 5 days of the year, Rock and Roller Coaster didn't open. Do you know why? There was a problem with a part. And it took them a few days to figure out what part was the problem. But once they figured out what part was the problem, then they had to go get a replacement part. So, yeah, it took them a while to troubleshoot. It took them a couple of days to troubleshoot. But once they identified where the problem was, they didn't have a part to fix it. They had to go order the part. Some company had to make the part. There are companies out there that make things. If Disney can't make the parts, I'm sure there's a company out there that's willing to make the parts. You can get anything made if you ask and pay the right amount of money. Why do you think Tokyo is able to get a brand new monorail that they just put on the tracks in the middle of COVID, no less? Because there are companies out there that are willing to build things for you. No company that builds things is going to turn business away from Disney. Whatever the requirements that Disney has, somebody is willing to build it at a price. And the question is Disney willing to pay the price? And the problem is that in most cases, no. Somebody in the chat said, Drew said, it would be so cool if Disney was privately owned. I say this a lot. The problem with capitalism, the problem with companies in this day and age, is that they don't answer to their customers. They feel they don't have to answer to their customers. They answer to their shareholders, and their shareholders, for the most part, don't care about the company, and they don't care about the customers. It could be Disney. It could be General Electric. It could be Pepsi. The people that own the shares of the company are investors, and they honestly don't care about the company. They only care about profits. And investors will sell stock in a company that doesn't make profits, and they'll buy stock in a company that they think is going to make profits. You have a company that's privately owned. You can answer to your management or your executives who obviously know more about the company and care more about the company than the shareholders and the investment banks. And absolutely, when Disney was a privately owned company, they cared a lot more about their customers, and they cared a lot more about their public image, and now they don't. And Rob on the chat says the Houston airport uses the PeopleMover system that was built by Disney. So yes, that's right. Community Transportation Systems, the division of WED. If I was at home, I have a brochure that's about over here on my desk. That was an advertising brochure from 1975 for Community Transportation Systems, which is what they used to sell the Houston airport on the PeopleMover. And so they can get parts. It just costs money. And Disney seems to think that it's better to not have a ride operating than to pay money to make it operate. And that's not putting show above money. Obviously, show's not the top because safety's the top. That's fine. Show should be second, and it's bad show when a ride is closed for 10 months and you still can't fix it because you're unwilling to pay the money to get parts. And the same with the monorail, and the same with a lot of other things that break down at Disney. They're unwilling to spend the money to maintain the stuff, and they're unwilling to spend the money to have replacement parts so that when things break, they can fix it. This is not how the company used to work. This is not how Walt Disney World used to work. Walt Disney World used to have replacement parts. Walt Disney World used to replace light bulbs that burned out every night. There are stories. It's almost urban legend at this point that Walt Disney World had
paints and light bulbs.
Walt Disney World had a group of people whose sole job it was to go around the park every night and replace burned out light bulbs. They had a group whose sole job it was to go around and touch up paint every night. They don't have that anymore, and it shows. And it affects the show quality, and it's really the primary thing. When Tom talks about Tokyo and how Tokyo was so much better, you know how often stuff breaks in Tokyo? It doesn't.
Rare.
You know why? Because Tokyo does annual refurbishments. Like Splash Mountain Tokyo just came out of its annual refurbishment. They schedule refurbishments. They do what's called preventive maintenance. That is something that Disney does not understand the concept of at all. Obviously, Paul Pressler was the king of not understanding preventive maintenance. But that's the situation that we're in, and it's because Disney only cares about their shareholders and does not have a concern for their customers, and it's going to bite them in the long run. I don't know when, but I guarantee it will. There's another rant. I'm kind of exasperated at this point. What was the next thing on the discussion list was Disney I hesitate to even get into this. The last thing on our list for discussion tonight was Disney saying that they are exploring the possibility of moving some office jobs and office space from California to outside of Orlando, in I believe Lake Nona. This is not something that honestly surprises me. There are a ton of companies that have been fleeing California for a number of reasons: high taxes, very onerous regulations. It's
COVID
not a good
restrictions.
place.
Yeah.
There's COVID restrictions. It's also it's very expensive to hire good people there because the cost of living is very high. You could absolutely run a company and spend less money on a lot of parts of your company if it was somewhere other than California. Again, California has decided that this is the route they want to go down. It's going to come to bite them. It already is starting to come to bite them. When COVID is over, some states are going to be in much better financial shape than others, and California is going to be near the bottom of that list. So I don't want this to get into a political discussion. Obviously, we know that Bob Iger was on Gavin Newsom's economic panel and then quit. It's an understatement to say that he was not happy with how Gavin Newsom was running this panel. So I don't want this to be a political discussion, but you can't really blame any company for trying to manage costs and reduce costs by seeking to move any part of the company to a place that has a lower cost of operations and a lower cost of living. And honestly, this is really not significantly different from the whole offshoring craze that happened in the 90s and the 2000s, when every company on earth was sending, was closing factories. The Hershey Company, we talked about Hershey Park last week. People love talking about Hershey Park. The Hershey Company, at one point, which has made the Hershey's chocolate in Hershey, Pennsylvania, since sometime in the 1800s, the Hershey Company decided to save money by making Hershey's chocolate in Mexico. Now, I don't know about you, but when I visited Mexico in the summer, it was pretty hot. I don't know how Hershey's chocolate works in Mexico. I hope Tom is watching tonight, because every time I see the word chocolate, he really thinks it's quite amusing that I have an accent. And so I'm going to keep saying chocolate every time, as much as I can, simply to amuse Tom. I think it's one of his favorite things. Hershey, I don't know how you make chocolate in Mexico in the summer without it melting. It must cost money to refrigerate the chocolate to make it in Mexico. Hershey, plus you've got different raw ingredients. If you go to Hershey, Emma, have you been to Hershey Park? I have to imagine you've been to Hershey Park.
I have, many times, because it's not like about 2 hours for me, I think. Yeah, 2 hours.
Yep. So, and I'm sure you've gone to Chocolate World, and I'm sure you've ridden the ride in Chocolate World, because it's almost an identical ride system to Journey to Imagination. The ride system at Chocolate World is almost identical to Journey to Imagination, which is amazing to begin with. But Chocolate World takes you on a tour of the history of chocolate making in Hershey. And one of the things that they say makes Hershey chocolate as good as it is and loved by people the world over is that they use milk from many, many local farms in central Pennsylvania. It's very fresh milk, and they use it in the factory, and it's fresh, and they make chocolate with this local ingredients, and it gives a unique quality to Hershey's chocolate.
Mhm.
I don't think there are dairy farms in Mexico like there are in central Pennsylvania. I'm not sure, but in any case, I feel like the milk that you would get from dairy farms in Mexico would have different qualities than the milk you get from dairy farms in Pennsylvania. Just
Mhm.
like you make wine and the different regions have different grapes which give different qualities to your wine. I
Mhm.
suppose milk is probably very similar, and so different milk from different regions gives different qualities to your chocolate. And apparently, Hershey only cares about money and doesn't care about the quality of their chocolate, and so they've made the decision to outsource their chocolate manufacturing to Mexico. This happened years and years ago. Maybe it's different. I don't know. Um, Steve in the chat says Hershey's barely able to legally label their product as chocolate because it meets the very minimum of the FDA definitions. And I don't necessarily want to talk about that because uh, that's a whole other argument as to what's real and what's not. And I don't even want to go there. But so go ahead, Ashley.
Sorry. Circling back to the original comment about Disney potentially moving offices to Florida. When you talk about cost-saving business decisions, these are the kinds of things that to me make sense. Between cost of living and things like that, it makes sense to look at that as a good business decision to save your business money and get better product. Like, I would rather see more business decisions like that than cutting back on maintenance. Like, where I get mad at them for not being willing to spend the money on maintenance, these kinds of decisions to say, this is where you should be saving money, not parks maintenance or park quality. And you know, any political reasons aside, I mean, you know, if taxes and everything, and if it makes, I believe our article speculated that the move would probably be tied to parks. Well, that to me makes sense. Your main park, I mean, I know Disneyland is the original, but your main park is in Florida. It only makes good sense to move the parks offices to Florida.
Right.
So yeah, so I mean, I get it. I understand it. I think it would be a good idea and good business decision for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, knowing my cousin, so she lived in San Francisco, but she, you know, again, like, talk about an expensive area to live in California. That's probably one of the most expensive areas. She, you know, moved to Tahoe. Yeah, like she moved to Lake Tahoe as soon as she could. When she found out she can work from home, she got out of there. And I mean, that's the same thing with, I mean, working in the theater industry. All my friends who live in DC and all my friends who live in New York, same thing. They got out of there the second they could. So I mean, it did not surprise me to see this news at all that Disney was going to do that. And yeah, especially with all those restrictions in California, it absolutely makes sense. And I'm sure that, you know, those people are going to want to follow too, because I'm sure, you know, just again, the rules and the restrictions that are there in California are definitely not the same in Florida. I mean, so.
But again, I mean, just look at cost of living, because I lived in, my family lived in Riverside for several years between 2008 and 2012. And it is, cost of living out there is ridiculous. Like, that's part of the reason why we moved back south. Like, just your money goes so much further. So even if you pay everybody that's currently working in California that is in those departments that you're moving, if you pay them to relocate and give them a reload package, at the end of the day, you're probably saving more money, because yeah, you can still give raises and bonuses, and it sounds very, you know, it's cynical to say this, but you're not going to have to up those raises and bonuses as much as you do in California, because their money is going to go further. So, you know, they're kind of already getting a raise just by moving to Florida, even if you don't increase their rate of pay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, these are the kind of decisions that you can take data, like we talked about before, and apply it. Nobody's gonna argue this. No one's gonna hear this and go, oh, well, they want to save money and be closer to their larger park and maximize their talent pool. Wow, what an evil corporation Disney is. This is one of those decisions that actually makes sense because you have the data to back up. This is a common sense kind of move. It's it's a round peg, round hole type of thing. But then you have the AP situation, or even like we were talking before with the merchandise. This happens in professional sports all the time. A guy gets traded at the last minute or something happens, and he has his bobblehead day, and the guy's not on the team anymore. Like, this happens all the time in professional sports. But they don't have an excuse. Because, and a lot of times what they'll do is, and I have a lot of friends that work in professional baseball, that they'll push that date up. If a guy's potentially going to get traded, they'll actually move that bobblehead a month ahead just to make sure that they can get it out so they're not giving a bobblehead of a guy that plays for a different team, right? So they easily...
You know what? That's the merchandise. That's the merchandise arm talking to the talent and the management arm to figure out that the guy's going to get traded, right? Makes a lot of sense to me.
Departments communicate with each other.
Right, and that's the whole thing. It's amazing that you have a bunch of people that don't talk to each other. And it's very obvious because we've seen this so many times with reservation systems and everything else. Well, you can't reserve this without talking to this, and you have to cancel that to do that. And it's like, has anybody just sat and thought about the pure agony of Shop Disney? We all have the pure agony of trying to book things and everything else. It's like, this is all lost money. I know, Jason, you ranted, and I loved it a couple weeks ago before break, where you talked about, I walk up and there's one, I think it might even been Jill. There's one person and there's a line of 50 people I'm trying to give you money. I'm stealing your rant here. I'm trying to give you money. I want to give it to you. You have a thing I want. But I have to wait 45 minutes to buy that thing. A lot of times we'll put it down and we'll go. And you know how it works. In that moment of not purchasing it, you just lost that sale. There's no way to track that. And I saw in the chat where somebody said, well, they calculate how much the AP people actually have. Yeah, but that's not specific. If in college sports especially, if you want to get better at something, you measure it. You measure specifically what do you want to get better at. If it's enrollment for higher ed, if it's revenue, if it's tracking. You don't know, with all this information age that we're in, you don't have that information and you're just guessing. And that is guessing, and I've always said hope is not a plan, right? And leadership shows itself in times of crisis. And I think it's been pretty obvious, everybody's like, well, I'm not really in charge anymore, it's that guy's deal, but I'm going to kind of sort of stay here and take all the credit for the good stuff, but blame him for all the bad stuff. And that's not leadership, that's deflection. And to me, it's like, this is the same type of deal. This is a very easy decision. They should have probably have done this a very long time ago. But they're looking at the information they have, and they're going, wow, we're going to save this percentage, and we're going to be able to do this in perpetuity. How do you not have, no, we're just going to cut APs. And then to your point, Jason, this is a long-term problem they have. And is it a question of the people that are in charge aren't going to be in charge long enough to care? They're going to be gone in 5 years. The stock price is going to be where it's going to be. They're going to get their bonuses. They're going to leave. And then all of a sudden, who cares whatever, if it's Josh Lamar, whoever's taken over, let that be his problem. And, like Tom, when Tom went to I don't know if you were with him, Jason, Tom goes to flush the toilet, and then all of a sudden they hadn't run the water or flushed the toilet. I think it was in Animal Kingdom, and they had to have maintenance guys. Like, no one thought
that happened to us in the Polynesian, too, yep.
I was going to say, wasn't that Polly?
That was Polynesian, and I was there. That was when Tom was spending my points, yes.
Okay, sorry to bring up an old wound, but yeah, so...
But again, that's a deluxe monorail loop resort. That should not happen at a deluxe monorail
But you know
resort,
what?
unless a child or something stuffed a toy down there. But just because of basic maintenance, that should never happen.
Yep.
And of
I remember
course
hearing that. I was like, this isn't real. This has got to be Tom trying to get clickbait for the Twitter. And he's like, no, really, this is a real thing. I saw it other places. There's pictures of guys frantically digging, and I'm like, this is amazing to me. My mind was I had to stop and think wow, we didn't think running the water would matter.
It's the problem of
PeopleMover literally didn't move, physically move an inch for 8 months, and then they were surprised when they fired it up and wow, this doesn't work. If I have a car that I don't start for a year,
it busted.
when I
It was
turned
down. It was down before COVID. It was down what, like
Yeah.
2-3 weeks before COVID even happened.
Yeah, because there was that fire.
Something like that.
I think it was an electric fire or something that happened. Yeah. And that's the whole thing. That's the short-sighted thinking that Tom keeps talking about and that Jason keeps talking about. It's
also kind of like,
yeah.
It's kind of like when you leave a parade out in the rain and then it gets rusty and you can't run the parade anymore.
Old
Oh my
wounds.
God. Yikes.
It's kind of like, oh, I didn't think the rain was going to destroy this fan favorite parade.
I still think that was an inside on purpose job. Somebody did that on purpose.
I mean, it's been known to happen before.
I need to be consoled
what
right
happened.
now. You brought up some old wounds.
That's what happened. That's what happened to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in Walt Disney World. That's why 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea was shut down, because there were park operations people that didn't like the ride because it was difficult and they had to keep doing maintenance, and it was
such a loss.
Musty, smelly attraction, and so the people that worked there were crabby and didn't like doing their job. And so when Bob Iger came to look at the attractions, they poured water all over and said to him, yeah, it leaks and it costs a lot of money to fix. And he said, well, then just shut it down. That's what happened. Anyway, that's just another little tangent. Another little tangent for tonight. I'm in a very melancholy mood tonight, as you might be able to tell. But I don't know. Let me see what else is going on in the chat. I think my daughter Lindsay is in the chat because my family usually watches.
Aww.
Hi, Lindsay. Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, Lindsay.
Let's see. All right. So I actually, we did a really nice job with talking about the move out of California and not having politics brought into it. I applaud our attention to that point. Thank you very much, everybody.
Go team.
But as you said, Brian, this is the kind of corporate decision that saves money that I can get behind, because it doesn't make the guest experience worse. You're not charging people more and giving them less. You're saving money in a portion of the company that doesn't make the product that you deliver any worse. And that is where companies need to focus when they need to cut costs and save money, and stop charging more and delivering less to your customers, because they will simply not return.
And is it a supply and demand thing? Like, what's the breaking point of? And I know Ashley has mentioned this before, and she's dead on. And I love how she goes on her Ashley rants too. I'll get a shirt for you, Ashley. I didn't know you were gonna be on. I would have made another one. But no, like I've noticed this because I've only gone for 10 years, and I've noticed over the course of a decade the difference. Like when I first went, there was like even the ropes when you'd walk, like there wasn't a link that was broken. There wasn't like a Mickey, it's the wrong word, Mickey Mouse way of like using a fake thing. That's everything matched. And I remember when we went this summer, and I went and I looked, and I'm like, I saw a lot of broken clips. I saw a lot of stuff that I had never seen before. And I'm like, wouldn't at the time have gone through and do that checklist and that punch list of little things to be when there was nobody in the park? Like, wouldn't that be an opportunity where you could actually spend less money because you wouldn't have to deal with only doing it at night and having to pay a gazillion people? You could staff 10 people as opposed to 20 overnight, have those 10 people walk through and tackle stuff methodically because you know it's not going to get messed up. But again, to your point, Jason, at some point, that magic and nostalgia is going to go away because people aren't going to care. They're going to look and go, well, I can go to use the joke, Six Flags and save a ton of money and not spend, $10,000, $11,000 and have this no magic bands and everything else. Like, how do you justify that? And I think it's because they don't care. That's why we're not DVC members, because we're like, what is this company going to look like in 50 years or 25 years or 30 years? Number one, our kids are going to want to
never,
know.
I would never tell anyone to buy into DVC now. Back in the year 2000 when I bought into it, it was a good deal. Anytime probably up until 2008, 2009, I think it was a good deal. But since then, I don't know that it's a good deal. I've done the cost benefit analysis. When prices got up over $100 and some a point, the cost benefit analysis just doesn't come out in your favor.
It just doesn't. I mean,
people want to have.
Poor Patrick hasn't even gotten to stay at his home resort yet, and he's been a DVC member for how long, and he still can't get in at his home resort?
Right.
Or at least he couldn't the last time I talked to him. Patrick, if you have, I'm very happy for you. But, like, I know that's been a constant issue. Like, it's his home resort, and he can't get in to stay there. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, I have thought about, like, this has kind of been the question that, as far as like what my like financial goals are for myself and my life. Like, my parents bought in 94. Friends, that is before I was even born. So there you go. Now you know how old I am. But anyway, like, just I've had such good memories of when I was little. Again, when times were better, when it was a better park experience, and I was like, oh man, like this is what I want. I want to keep going here like for the rest of my life. But now, like, seeing again, like the issue of not being able to book your home resort. Like, we can't do that, like, unless we really are on that 11th month, like 11 month,
right,
whatever that
like,
day
right
is,
there.
on it to a T. Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know with how expensive like park tickets are. I mean, even with the annual pass discount for, the gold pass for DVC members, and how insanely much it is per point now. If it's even worth it, which kind of makes me sad because I'm still a fan of Disney. I'm still a fan of the parks, but even someone like me who kind of is a diehard fan, like, if that's causing a concern, like, there's something wrong there.
Well, I mean,
a lot of so
even this summer, and I think
we can stay above what we
yeah,
normally
I think even talking about like what's the breaking point, and I think Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of ran into the same thing too. In June, when everything kind of started to reopen in Florida, my family decided that we were going to go on a vacation because my brother had just graduated college and had gotten into grad school and everything. And so we were trying to decide what we wanted to do. Originally, before COVID happened, we had this whole big family Disney trip planned for the end of May. And, of course, that had to be canceled. And everybody was like, well, do we go to Disney still? And we started looking at what it was going to cost us. And even then, just looking at what Universal was going to cost versus what Disney costs. And quite frankly, is Universal perfect? No. But I was pleasantly surprised by what I got for my money at Universal. Like, they are honestly trying. Like, everybody was like, oh, they built No, what's going to come down to is what you get for your money. Because Universal is not that expensive, but they are trying. They are making that money worth it. Whereas Disney's like, we don't care. You'll pay what we tell you to pay to come see Tron and everything. And I think that attitude is going to come back and bite them in the butt. Whereas I think Universal, even if they don't, they have to cancel that third park, they're making their money work harder, and you get more for what you pay at Universal.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again,
let me say a couple things because I want to wrap this up because it's 10. As many of our News Tonight viewers know, 10:30 is past my bedtime. I realize it started late.
True.
Desi is in the chat and missed the beginning of the show and wants to know why I'm melancholy. I'm melancholy because I think melancholy is a fantastic word, and more people should use it.
They should.
I'm also sort of tired because I drove 2 days to get here, and driving from Pennsylvania to Florida it's not a difficult thing, but it's just tiring. I mean, it's kind of emotionally tiring.
Yeah.
It does, and so that's that. It's not a big deal. I'll once I get to a park tomorrow, I think I'll be better. Once I get some sleep, I'll be better. Drew in the chat mentioned Epic Universe, and if you've been following our news, discombobulated. It's another very good word, Karen. If you follow our news about what's going on at Universal Studios Japan with the Super Mario World and stuff, that looks amazing.
Yes, it does.
I think if that anything like that happens here, it's going to widen the gap between Disney and Universal even more. Galaxy's Edge. So Universal opened all of this Harry Potter stuff, and Disney's comeback was Galaxy's Edge. It was a pretty weak comeback, and it hasn't actually done a lot to make people come to Disney. Now you've got COVID and whatever. Galaxy's Edge is really not a very compelling addition like Harry Potter was. I will tell you that I visited Universal and visited Harry Potter Land, or whatever you call it. I had never read the books. I had never seen the movies. I had never read the books, and I'd never seen the movies. But I visited Hogsmeade and the other one, and I was pretty much blown away with the attention to detail, the theming. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I knew it looked good, and it obviously took a lot of care and a lot of expense for them to actually put that much effort into making a land. And Drew in the chat said Universal actually got me interested in the Harry Potter franchise, and so to some extent that's the same for me. Although, so I was when we came with my family in July. Obviously, Disney wasn't, Disney wasn't open. We came in June. Disney wasn't open yet, so we stayed at Universal, and obviously I knew the kids were going to enjoy Harry Potter Land, but they'd never seen the movies either, so we made it a point to watch all the movies in order before we came. I'm still not a huge fan of the movies, to be honest, but I at least now know what I'm looking at when I go, and I appreciate the effort that Universal put in, and I know like a lot of it was demanded by J.K. Rowling and this and that, and that's fine. That's also part of the reason why Pandora looks as good as it does, right? Because that was all.
Sorry, not to cut you off or interrupt you, but I have to. The other thing that I think makes a big difference, at least from what I've heard of Galaxy's Edge, because I unfortunately still have yet to go, versus like Diagon Alley or Hogsmeade, is even just the integrity of the cast members that work in those lands. Like, they stick to, like, they will play with you and interact with you. And, like, I'll never forget, I was walking around, and we wound up on Nocturne Alley, so we were in the little shop, Borgin and Burke's back there, and I had on my Gryffindor shirt. And I had picked up a Tom Riddle diary and was looking at it and laughing with my friend. And one of the ladies that worked there actually walked over to me and snatched the book out of my hand and was like, "You're a Gryffindor. You don't need to be messing with this," and put it back on the shelf and like shooed me away from the Horcrux. It was hysterical, but it was so great.
That's great.
It was so good. Like, But that's the kind of thing that Galaxy's Edge promised us, but you don't get. versus
Yep.
you did
And
that
you know
at
what?
Universal.
You know what? So James Cameron, and there's a lot in the chat about J.K. Rowling and this and that, and I don't want to talk about her political views and whatnot.
No.
She was very protective of her intellectual property and made sure that Universal did it justice. I can appreciate that. James Cameron was very protective of his intellectual property and made sure that Pandora was done to his specifications and that Disney did it justice. I can appreciate that. It's one of the reasons why Pandora is a very, very enjoyable land, even to people like me who've never seen the movies. You go into Star Wars land, the problem is that because Disney bought Star Wars, there was no one there who owned the intellectual property that could demand that Disney do it justice. And so they didn't do it justice. They screwed it up. They cut the budget. They promised things that they never delivered. There was no one there to oversee the creation, the idea behind it, the fact that they were inventing a world for people to visit that no one actually wanted to visit. There's plenty of worlds in the Star Wars universe that people would love to visit, but you didn't build any of them. You built a different one because it was cheaper. I don't know, but there was no one there that had a compelling interest to protect their intellectual property, and so Disney just basically did it on the cheap and didn't do a lot of the things they said they were going to do, and people don't like it. People like the rides in Galaxy's Edge, but they like the rides in Pandora too. But if you say, what's a really cool land to be in, nobody says Galaxy's Edge. They say Pandora. They make Hogsmeade. They say Hogsmeade, whatever. They don't say Galaxy's Edge is like a really compelling and enjoyable land to just spend time in.
I was going
They
to
don't say going in the stores. I mean, like, okay, so going in Oga's Cantina is pretty cool, but maybe that's because you can get alcoholic beverages. I don't know. The drinks there are pretty good.
Overpriced.
But to be honest, right? But to be honest, I don't know that. I don't think the shopping in Galaxy's Edge is as compelling as the shopping in Harry Potter Land. Like, Ashley, your story, right? That doesn't happen. It was supposed to happen to some extent. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And
Even
so,
to your point, I mean, people wander around and just play in Hogsmeade and in Diagon Alley. I mean, they've got even, the interactive wands are cool. But even if you don't have an interactive wand, just the detail and the fact that they have made this land that so many people have a connection to. Again, you dress up in your robes, you go play, you go pretend that you're actually living in the land. And it's fantastic.
I am
People don't do that at Galaxy's Edge. You go, you ride the rides, you go have a drink at Oga's, you shop at whatever the shop, I can't think of the shop's name. You have a Ronto wrap and you leave. You don't, people will spend an entire day at Universal just hanging out and riding the train back and forth between Diagon Alley and Hogsmeade, just playing Harry Potter. That's what Galaxy's Edge should have been.
No,
right,
I
and so we got an interactive wand, and my kids played with it for 15, 20 minutes and did a couple things with it, and it wasn't their thing. But the fact that exists, and you can do it if you want, and it doesn't. You can do it if you want, and it doesn't. You're not waiting in a line for an attraction. It's something else to do besides a ride. Why is there not any interactive type of game in Galaxy's Edge?
Right, and that's
I don't know why.
That's what really gets me as a fan of both of those franchises. I mean, if you couldn't tell by the stuff that's behind me, but I mean my Harry Potter stuff is over there. But anyway, it just I just enjoy. I could go to Universal and spend a whole day just in the Wizarding World. Doesn't matter. I could sit around do whatever. I don't have to go anywhere else. I could enjoy myself for a whole day. I don't think I could say that about Galaxy's Edge. I mean, yes, the rides are awesome. Like Smuggler's Run, we had a great time. I mean, if rides worked, I'm sure we would have had a better time, but we still had a good time. But and I mean, except for like the only thing that really stands out for me is the Savi's workshop experience, because again, you're creating your own lightsaber. You're kind of putting yourself into the story, and the cast members there are just excellent with that. Like the lead actors they have doing the whole narration, it's amazing. But I mean, other than that, like because they budget cut everything and cut all those experiences, it's just not the same. It's not the same. You're really not living your own Star Wars story fully as they promised.
And
you know what's funny is there's people, just real quick, there's people in the chat.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry. Well, no, I have a couple of
No, you go ahead.
kids, and they like Star Wars, but in all honesty, we're sort of afraid to bring them to Universal because we feel like they're going to end up wanting to go there instead of going to Disney World. And the problem is, my cousin used to, it sounds bad, but my cousin used to work at Universal for a long, long time. And when he was there, when kind of Harry Potter World kind of just sort of started, and he had laid out to me that they even told their workers, I don't know what they call them, cast or whatever, they told their workers what the grand plan was. So literally, we're going to do this in phases, but the phase that we're going to do is going to be legit. And then providing it does as well as we believe it's going to go, and we get approval from creative, we're going to push this to a whole nother level. And that was something where, even going to the first kind of edition of Harry Potter's World before it blew up, it was so well done. And I was never really a Harry Potter fan, but I remember thinking like, oh, I want to kind of like hang out here. This is really cool. And I think for, to your point about Jason, about Nintendo World, like that's a huge deal. Like, I don't know if you tried to buy any of those Super Mario Lego sets. I know my son has like all of them, the interactive ones. You can't buy those. You can't get those anywhere. They're just sold out everywhere. So the popularity of that franchise and that brand, if they do it as well as it looks, like to your point, Jason, they're going to close that gap. And then at what point? Like, why am I going to ride the same ride that I've ridden that when it works is okay, but it's the same one they've had for 35 years? What's the draw? So now it becomes a once every 10-year park, and then now what? Now everybody's pointing fingers and not thumbs and blaming everybody else and wondering why, oh, no one saw this coming, and people are going to bail and they're going to sell that stock and it's going to crash, and then all of a sudden now we're going to have to deal with it. They're going to have to spend 10 times. You have the Star Wars hotel that you're introducing. To what? To a mediocre world that you didn't do correctly? We're not going to give.
And you're also charging a ridiculous amount, and the capacity is so small that people aren't going to. People are simply not going to be able to do it. That's like opening the best ride. That's like opening Rise of the Resistance and saying, well, we're only having 6 boarding groups today. That's what Galactic Star Cruiser is like. I think it's going to be really cool. It's not going to be able to be experienced by enough people to make a difference.
But is it though? So, because I have a question. Because again, when they first announced the hotel, they were promising all of this crap, like the reputation thing, story, and all the joy. And it would carry over into the park. Yep. And it would carry over into the parks, and they didn't do any of that. Like, there's no interactive characters in the park. There's no reputation system. So instead of playing this, 3-day, cosplay, I don't want to say murder mystery because it's not a murder mystery, but that's the only thing that I can think of, a cosplay game. What are you going to be doing or paying for? Because once again, everything that they've already promised you that's going to go along with this nifty little room where they're going to put you on a bus that's a spaceship with windows that are projecting space, what are you going to do besides climbing into a tiny little bunk bed for $3,000 and watching 2 cast members do the little stage show outside of Star Tours while you're eating your dinner in the hotel? Like, what else are they actually doing for that money? Because they aren't going to do any of the stuff in the park that they promised.
Yep, you're exactly right.
Period.
And so we have to wrap this up soon, but let me close out by saying a couple things. No, it's fine. I want to address a couple things in the chat and say a couple other things. So people are talking about dressing up and going to Galaxy's Edge and things, and yeah, you see people dress up and go to Galaxy's Edge. That's fine. You see it here and there, right? You go to Universal in the middle of July in the summer, and you count how many people are wearing black robes with hoods in 100-degree heat in summer.
They are thick. Gosh.
And then you tell me how many people are dressed up like anyone at all in Galaxy's Edge, and I guarantee there's going to be 100-fold difference in those numbers, right? That's number one. So there's something to be said for the environment and how it makes people feel. And David in the chat said Galaxy's Edge is sterile and has no personality, which is true because Disney didn't develop the personality because they budget cut the personality out of the land. So their biggest mistake was not making a land that people wanted to go to and then making it not even fun to go because they budget cut everything out of it. Number two is that you pay so much money to go to the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, right? You can go ride Rise of the Resistance another day. Like, you're in Disney for a week and 2 nights are at Galactic Star Cruiser. I'm not leaving that hotel because I spend so much money to get there. Why do I want to go and ride a crappy ride that I can ride later in the week? I want to experience the hotel. I don't want to go. I'd ride the bus to the park because I want to experience that. And then I go in to see like the back entrance or whatever it is. And then I turn around and come out and go back to the hotel because I'm paying so much money to be at that hotel. Why do I want to go to the park? It doesn't do anything for me. I want to take advantage of the hotel. Is it going to be
a pool? Like
I don't know. Who knows? There's probably going to be a
game. What are you getting for your money? The game doesn't exist.
There's probably a projected pool on the floor, and you go and they like squirt water guns at you or something. I don't know. Let me address 2 other things. And this is an amazing conversation, and I'm having a lot of fun tonight.
Oh man!
But we're gonna hit the 2-hour mark, and all right. So someone in the chat, K310 says Batu was a pre-existing planet though, but it's not one that anyone wanted to visit. Some people heard about it. Most people had no idea what it was, and it's not a place people wanted to go, and that's the problem. Number 3. People are saying, and actually Desi and Amy, who were on last week, are both saying in the chat, but there is an interactive game in Galaxy's Edge, and you do it with the app. Who in the Star Wars movies used an app to do anything that makes you want to use an app to do things? In Harry Potter Land, you get a wand, and it does things that are magical, because in the movies, the wizards had wands, and they did things that were magical. What Star Wars movie has people doing things and playing games in an app? I don't remember seeing people in the Star Wars movie doing an app to fight each other with lightsabers. I don't remember the app as part of the movie. There was no thing in the movie where people fought each other in an app. An app was the cheap way out of it because they didn't build the interactivity that they promised, so instead they put an app. Nowhere, I don't remember seeing anywhere in any of the Star Wars movies that you walked past crates and there was a QR code on the crates. You show me in what Star Wars movie there were QR codes, because that didn't happen. Even in the most recent Star Wars movie that was after QR codes were invented, they still weren't on crates in the movie. So the fact that you walk around with a phone and scan a QR code in the app is nowhere near the same as you buy a wand and interact with magical things in Harry Potter Land. It's not even close. As shown by the fact that no one uses the app. People have done it once, and they're like, okay, I did it. I'm not going to do it again. But yet, hundreds and hundreds of people go to Harry Potter Land every day, and they dress up, and they take their wands. People buy the wands, and they bring them back every time they come, and they do those wandy things because they think it's fun to cast spells. Because that's what the people in the movies did. They cast spells with their wands. They didn't scan QR codes with their apps in the movies. So why do I want to do that in Star Wars Land? I don't. If you don't pay for the wand, you can't play the game, which is true. It is what it is. The wands are kind of expensive, but then again, at least you're in the
You're still in the land. Like,
universe.
you're still watching other people do it. It still makes
Right.
the land feel more alive. And again, I would even just go back to team member integrity, because I could be wrong, but I don't hear about those moments like what I had. And that wasn't the only one that happened. Like, you can walk up to any person, like, they have to take a test and, like, know, kind of like they're doing, like, full-on character integrity to play a face character at Disneyland. Know the books, know the time period of the books that they're in, like, backwards and forwards. And this is just team members that work anywhere in the land. So I would still argue, like, you still feel more immersed. It feels more alive, even if you can't physically play the game yourself for whatever reason, or you choose not to. It still enhances the land itself versus watching everybody walk around with their iPhone. You don't know that they're playing the game because nothing happens. It's not even like Sorcerers of Magic Kingdom where something is going on that other people can see. Nothing. You just assume that they're texting. You have no idea that they're interacting with the land.
I will say, though, I just want to say, like, I have had great experiences with the cast members in Galaxy's Edge, though. Like, every time I've gone to Oga's, they're
like,
yeah. So I will say, like, the cast members are doing an excellent job. It's just the things to do, the app is not equivalent to.
But I would ask you this: Are they just really, like, awesome, nice, polite cast members, or do they keep that, like, Star Wars character, like, theming going?
No,
and this is just because I haven't been. Okay,
it's both. Yeah,
and that's fair.
It's
and that's fair.
Right, like,
and that's good to hear. That makes me happy.
Yeah. At least the Oga's cast members.
I've been trying for half an hour now to wrap this up. Desi and Amy said in the chat that I might have misconstrued what they said because they only said the app existed, not that it was good. I agree with them. Desi also said that she doesn't want to pay a ton of money for a plastic stick just to get in on the fun. I agree with that too. So when we went, my daughter wanted to do the wand thing in Ollivander's, and we did it. I honestly think she got more out of doing the wand choosing thing in Ollivander's than actually using the wand to do things out in the land. But that's her. Other people may be different. But in any case, if somebody wants to borrow a wand next time they go to Universal so they can do the things and they didn't want to pay for the wand, I have a wand that my kids don't use and I'll lend it to you. You could. I haven't honestly looked, and I haven't actually thought about this until just now. But I wonder if you can get those wands cheap on eBay, because the same thing happens to other people that happened to my daughter, where she wanted the experience of getting the wand, but then didn't really want to play with it afterwards. That's highly possible. Anyway, so there's two other things I want to say, and then I'm going to put this. I'm going to put this to bed, and then I'm going to put me to bed. So we talked last week about Hershey Park, and there's some discussion within WDWNT of having a Hershey Park meetup for a lot of us that live up in the Northeast. And I know that Emma goes to Hershey Park, and I know that Amy, who lives in New Jersey, has gone to Hershey Park, and there's plenty of people that live in the Northeast that are WDWNT staffers, and we're thinking of doing a Hershey Park meetup. Don't tell Tom because I haven't even told him this. This is something Jill and I came up with the other day of doing a WDWNT meetup at Hershey Park. And so if that sounds like something fun to you, stay tuned because we'll probably do it. If you want to email me and let me know that you're really into that kind of thing and you would definitely come, that would help us work out the details and make sure that we have some general idea of how many people would be interested. So there's that. There is, David says New York City. We actually, so a lot of the WDWNT staffers last year had a staff get-together in New York City, and it was a lot of fun. And so we kind of wanted to expand this and figured we could do Hershey Park for a whole day and go to Chocolate World, and it would be a lot of fun. So we're thinking of that. I also want to gauge, because now Emma's here, and she is a DVC member, and we get requests every once in a while to have a pressing issues that's really focused on DVC and explains. Steve says, let's have the meetup at Action Park. Steve, I would go. I've never been to Action Park, but ever since I watched the documentary, I so badly want to go. Even though it's not really Action Park anymore, I would still go just to say that I've gone, like a pilgrimage. The other thing I wanted to say is that, so yeah, the DVC discussion. If you guys want us to have another like extended DVC discussion, I know we touched on things a little bit, but we did one a number of months ago where we pretty much spent a whole episode on discussing DVC, and there were new members that were asking us questions, and people were asking us what we thought about our home resort and this and that, and resorts they've never visited, and how best to use your points and things like that. If you're interested in an episode like that, please email me and let me know, because it's something we could do. Ideally, we'll find a week where there's not a lot of news going on, and we'll do it that way, so I don't know how much notice I will give you on the DVC discussion. Yeah, there's that. Dawn says, let's have an MIT meetup because she lives 20 minutes away. Maybe we'll do that next time in Boston. Ron obviously lives just north of Boston, and so I meet up with Ron every time I go to Boston.
Don't leave out Dollywood.
Dollywood
was also mentioned.
People want to have a
wonderful.
Dollywood meetup. I've never been to Dollywood. But I hear it's really good. I hear it's really good.
So the weekend after the marathon, I went and I saw Courtney and her husband, and Doug, I think, was there. Somebody else was there. I apologize. It was weeks ago, and now I can't remember. But it was great. So much fun. First time there.
So all
8 out of 10.
We can do a lot of those things. I mean, now that things are kind of reopening a little bit more, and you know, as I think spring comes around and the vaccine rolls out more, and maybe people are more going to be open to traveling a bit, and we can do some of these local meetups, having fun for people that can't make it to Disney World or don't want to come all the way down here or don't have an annual pass, and so they want to wait until they can get an annual pass and this and that. So it's a thought, and no, we're not doing Dollywood News Today or Hershey Park News Today. Those of you who are around during a very specific short window remember Theme Park News Today, and that didn't work out so well, so I don't know that we're doing that. Anyway, that's all the news from the WDWNT side of things that I have of what to expect, what's coming up. But thank you all for watching tonight. Hit that like button before you go, because that helps us out. It gets our video featured on YouTube more, and that helps all of us out. So hit that like button. We will be back next week. We will be back next week. We'll have 2 new panelists again next week as we round out our roster of panelists. We're bringing them on 2 by 2 over the course of January. I don't know how many we're going to have. We had so many great auditions, and it's been really difficult to pick, and so we've sort of been picking 2 at a time as best we can and bringing them on. And Emma and Brian, you guys have done a great job. It's been a great discussion tonight. I really had fun. We spent way more time on the show than I expected. And
Jason,
now
can
I'm
I
going
say
to
one?
bed.
Jason, can I say one thing? During the marathon, when you got tired and you said, "Look at this thing," I have never laughed so hard at a marathon. That was
What is that even for?
my wife yelled at me and was like, "It's 2 bleeping a.m. in the morning, and you're waking the kids up." I was literally rolling on the floor crying because you were so over it. You put the ears on, you were just over it, and it was. I think we all felt that way.
Oh, with the
Even Tom was like,
option.
all right. It was so funny. It was amazing. It was
We were
hysterical.
so punch drunk tired.
Oh, it was so
yes, we
funny.
were.
I had work the next day. I was like, I'm totally watching this because I was dying the whole time. So I just want to get that out.
Yeah.
Great. Excellent.
And the
Excellent.
it was awesome, amazing. The timekeeping on the marathon was so good.
Yeah. So if you didn't catch my notice last week, we finally got the timekeeping Epcot construction special from the marathon show up on YouTube. It's there. You can search for it. If you can't find it, email me and I'll send you the link. But it's now up on YouTube and viewable. And if you want, so I will probably be in Epcot on Tuesday live streaming. Jill will be there. Axel will be there. So come join us Tuesday afternoon at some point, live streaming from Epcot. And if you don't make that, then I hope to see you here next week. We should be back to the 8 o'clock time slot next week because I'll be back in Pennsylvania by then. And so stay tuned and have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching on behalf of the panel, on behalf of the new panelists. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.